you can let somebody sit on that and it'll be fine. and people.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Why Bother, the podcast where we explore why creative makers bother doing things the hard way. I'm your host, Gareth Davies from Maker House, with our guest today, Martin Thornell from Mansfield Woods and Ottawa City Woodshop. And he's got a day job. We can't wait to hear all about it. Martin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into all those different roles and the evolution of how you got into these side hustles, really, outside of your day job.
Yeah.
Martin has worked with us at the store at Maker House. He's been selling, for those watching, you can see in front of us his cedar barbecue scrapers, his cedar beer tote, always thinking of new ways to use wood to make something long lasting. And for those watching or listening, please do like, subscribe, and share so we can grow our audience with you fine folks, and you can hear about when we have new episodes. So let's get into it. Martin, Why did you decide to take the plunge into woodworking when you had a very busy and very stable day job? You work and you still work for the federal government in trade. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I still have a terrific job with the government, but I kind of stumbled into woodworking. I took a class at the Ottawa City Woodshop, and it was kind of love at first class or whatever. Nice. And like literally, I think the next day I signed up as a member, and that was about 9 years ago, and I haven't stopped. Did something for me that I don't know if I needed it, but certainly it brought a huge amount of joy into my life. And it's just evolved into something that I couldn't have imagined then. And it's still giving me a whole lot of joy.
Yeah, I can see your smile right now, and people watching can see that. So if you're listening, just know you can feel the joy emanating as he talks about woodworking. And it's probably a good counterbalance to like the desk job.
It's perfect because I love what I do, but it's technical and it's desk work and it doesn't involve my hands. And when I'm in the wood shop, my head's in a totally different space. And, I don't want to overstate it, but it's incredibly therapeutic. I'm far from alone in finding woodworking therapeutic. I mean, I was just reading the other day about how there's all these programs emerging, especially in the UK, for people with PTSD or military vets who woodworking requires just enough focus to sort of remove you from some of the stresses in your life. And it does that for me.
Interesting. I can see that in your story. Let's unpack and back up a little bit to briefly describe what you do in your day job.
Sure. I'm a trade negotiator. I work for the Government of Canada. The Government of Canada is often negotiating trade agreements with countries around the world. I work in a somewhat technical area called rules of origin. It actually fits rather well with my interest in woodworking because rules of origin, the thing you need to know is how things are made.
Right, of course.
So we're often thinking about how things are made, what materials are used to make that thing. That knowledge is necessary to do rules of origin. And that knowledge is pretty handy with woodworking too.
Yeah, I guess you want to know where your cedar is coming from, where your materials are coming from.
You need to understand the properties of different woods, what some woods are better for certain things than others. Like cedar is so ideal for anything that's going to be outside, anything that's going to be getting wet. And then other woods are not so great for that application, but they're wonderful for other things.
Yeah, they have different properties. There's like hundreds of different species, right? So Ottawa City Woodshop is a fantastic organization, and you've been involved as a student since almost the beginning for them. Now you're actually part owner.
Yeah.
Tell people what the Ottawa City Woodshop is.
We call it a community woodshop. Really, we have two main activities that occur in the shop. We teach woodworking, and we teach people to make anything they might like to make. We have classes on making a dining table, making a toboggan, carving a spoon, a plant stand, whatever. We have all sorts of them. So that's one side of our business. And then the other side is what we call the community woodshop, where people who want to do woodworking buy a membership just like they would buy a membership in a gym, and they come in and they do their thing.
Yeah.
They make whatever it
they
is
don't have to have
make.
their own wood shop, or they could augment it, supplement it with the tools at the Ottawa City Woodshop.
Yeah. They have to do our safety class so that we know they can use our equipment safely and properly. And then they come in, they bring their wood, or they can get wood from us, and they make and make and make.
Very cool. And then of course your third business, really your second side hustle, is Mansfield Woods.
That's right.
We've talked about, why you would take the plunge and balance your day job with woodworking. Tell me something specific about Mansfield Woods that you do the hard way, and why you bother doing it the hard way.
Well, like Mansfield Woods, when I got into woodworking, I realized pretty quickly you only need so much stuff in your own house. So if you want to do a lot of woodworking, you got to find a way to
serve the people.
Yeah. Well, you got to find an outlet for all the things you make.
Yeah.
And so I walked into Maker House with
an idea.
I brought an idea, which I think was a good idea, but it was an idea you already had.
We had it covered.
What
was it again?
It was a bottle opener. It was a bottle opener.
Yeah, okay, I remember that. And little surfboard
thing.
Opener.
And turns out that was a bad idea because no bottles need openers much anymore, right? But
bit of a relic these days.
Honestly, you were super encouraging. And you said, and I like the fact that what you told me was, oh, that's a nice thing, but we can't take that because I have bottle openers.
Right.
And I really and to this day, I appreciate the fact that you were respectful of the people that you were already working with. I just said, what about a barbecue scraper? And you said, well, we don't have one of those.
Yeah.
And I should have, before we came here, counted up how many of those I've made for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But I know
it's well into the hundreds, that's for sure.
Oh, it's in the thousands.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, not in the multiple. It's over 1,000. Yeah. I know that. And what's cool is that I'm positive other people have come into your shop with barbecue scrapers.
Yeah,
because they're pretty common now. And I think you must have said, oh, we already have one of those.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really appreciate, that loyalty, and that, it's meaningful to me.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And same to you. I appreciate your approach coming in with an idea, your openness to feedback about what we're doing, what the market already has.
Yeah.
And you were just looking for that product that is somewhat universal, that everybody has one of these in their house, but you can make it out of wood. You can make it affordably. And you nailed it with the barbecue scraper. And you were kind of early because the wooden barbecue scrapers have been around for a few years now, but you were one of the first ones I had seen.
Yeah.
And tell us what's special about the wooden barbecue scraper. Why is it a thing?
Well, it's a thing because everyone was using a wire brush type scraper. And we now know that not often, but sometimes those little bristles break off. And because the grills can be a little sticky, there can be bristles that stick to the grill and then stick to the food, and that can cause people a lot of trouble. From time to time, there's stories in the news about people who have really bad experiences with it. So a wooden scraper won't do that. It does a wonderful job cleaning the grill. If you use them consistently, it'll wear nice grooves in the wood. Cedar's ideal because you're going to leave the thing outside. It's going to get wet. But it's soft enough that it'll create nice grooves, but hard enough that it'll last a long time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of well suited. Yeah.
It works so great. You can turn it on its side too to get between the grills.
Yeah.
We've had ours for a few years and it's got those nice lines worked into it.
I've discovered through the scrapers, actually, one of the things I like about woodworking that maybe differentiates me from some other woodworkers, I actually like making the same thing repeatedly.
Gotcha.
Because I like that sense of really minor improvements, incremental improvements in what I make. When I look back at how I used to make them, not only do I make them sort of more efficiently, but they turn out better. It's just a nicer product. And I enjoy that feeling that I'm getting better.
The journey of iterating and improving your quality control.
When you make things once, you're going to make mistakes. And that's okay. I don't get too bothered by that. But if you make it twice, you should be able to get rid of those mistakes. And then if you make it 1,000 times, there shouldn't be many mistakes left.
Be really on the rails. Yeah, that's great to hear about. And let's do something we like to call
bother, not bother.
Okay. So you get 2 answers, bother or not bother.
Okay.
And I'm just going to ask you rapid fire a few different things here. Okay. Fine wine.
Bother.
I know this because he gifts me a bottle of wine every Christmas because you're such a generous man. Number 2, bookkeeping.
No, don't bother.
Don't bother.
Someone needs to bother. I just don't really want to bother.
We'll outsource the bookkeeping. All right. What about cooking?
Bother.
Okay.
Before woodworking, that was how I spent a lot of my time.
Nice.
But now when woodworking encroaches on my cooking time, but I still get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, it's still working with your hands. So buying lumber at, say, Home Depot, where that's already planed and ready to work with.
Nah, don't bother. Buy rough wood and turn it into beautiful wood through the milling process.
Okay. Power tools.
Well, sometimes bother. I'm going to hedge. Sometimes bother, sometimes don't bother.
The alternative being?
Hand tools. There's a special joy in hand planing something. There's some tremendous efficiency in using a power planer. So it depends. Yeah. If you've just got some time in the shop, just pull out a hand plane and do it.
Okay. Yeah. Love it. All right. And then we're going to do one more thing before we wrap up for a quick break. And we like to call this
the cost of convenience.
Okay.
Think of something you do as a shortcut or someone else might do as a shortcut. And is there a cost to that convenience?
Well, when we get a lot of people, when they come to the shop for the first time, they're new members, they go to the big box stores and buy wood. Those stores are convenient. There's lots of them. They're easy to get to. The wood's inexpensive, but there's a cost to it because you will still need to mill that wood because it
might not be perfectly square.
It's flat-ish, square-ish, but it's not good enough for most projects that people want to undertake. Well, you still have to mill it. And then because the wood they sell in those shops is often down to 3/4, a very small dimension, by the time you've actually squared the wood up, you don't have enough wood.
Gotcha.
So now that wood isn't suitable for your project and you've got to change your project or go buy more wood.
You might be back to square one.
That's right.
And heading to a real mill.
Heading to a place where you can get rough lumber and get it right the first time.
All right. That's good advice for people starting out. So this is why we wanted to have you on. So I'm really glad you could make it.
All right.
We're going to take a quick break now and we're going to be right back with our second segment. Thanks for tuning in, listening and watching, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Gareth Davies, here from Maker House with our guest, Martin Thornell from Mansfield Woods. We're going to get right back into it with a fun fact about your industry and really the wood you work with most, cedar.
Mm-hmm.
So cedar does grow in North America, as we know. I have it on my property, but it's actually not native to North America. What are your favorite qualities about this amazing wood?
I make a lot of things that wind up outside or that get wet, and it handles moisture so perfectly. That's why it's used for fence, for shingles, for decks. It's perfect for a scraper. It's perfect for the beer box. I make these bath mats out of cedar, sort of a spa bath mat.
Yeah.
It's sort of soft on your feet. It's soft to touch. It handles water. Cedar and white oak are the woods that we can get easily around here that do best in an outdoor environment. But cedar has the added advantage of being beautifully lightweight. It's wonderful. It's not as strong as some other woods, but in the right situation, it's more than strong enough.
Are there any other things you can think of that are made with cedar?
Well, aromatic cedar is used. That's the lining for cedar chests, like things where or blanket boxes, because it has this ability to deter moths and insects.
Right.
So it was the perfect place to store traditionally like woolen blankets, which moths like to eat. But
Yeah.
if it's in a cedar chest,
You won't get holes.
you
in your
wouldn't get it.
blanket. Yeah.
And if you put sweaters in there, they come out smelling beautifully.
That's true. You get like the double benefit.
It's lovely. You know, another thing you can make with cedar and is made with cedar all the time is saunas.
Oh, they smell so good.
Smell great. And again, because it's such a moist environment, it's the perfect wood.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to enjoy a trip to the Ladarndique? So that's aromatic cedar. What kind of cedar are you using?
I'm using Western Red. What I like about it is there's a lot of variety in the color that you get from Western Red. I mean, sometimes it is quite reddish pink. Sometimes it's almost chocolate brown. Sometimes it's quite light. And then there's Eastern White Cedar, also beautiful, also a fabulous outdoor wood. To my mind, a little less character.
Yeah, a little more plain.
Quite as glorious looking as Western Red.
Well, because a lot of the woods we know in North America are pretty white, like or beige.
Yeah,
and so obviously Eastern White Cedar is closer to that
for sure.
Western
But
Red
it's great wood. It's great wood.
More of a tan or colored wood. What else is cedar used in? I want to go like toe to toe back and forth here. I'm gonna start with boats because I think a lot of people don't think about it, but like there's wooden boats and they're usually cedar.
There's a wooden boat, a wooden cedar strip boat in our shop right now.
Oh, cool.
My partner, not me, my partner Matt Wallace, he's been working on it for a while and he's putting in new cedar boards, all sorts of. He's got to replace a lot of it. It was pretty beat up. Nice. Cedar strip canoes are famous here in Canada.
Yeah.
Beautiful, lightweight, tough. The wood's tough enough. Again, it's so good in the water.
Yeah, it can be watertight. Obviously,
and
it's light, floats.
Yeah.
And air fresheners too.
Sure. Aromatic cedar. Yeah. I'm
going to do one more. Is it shoe trees or like the things you put in your shoes?
And I think they were traditionally made from aromatic cedar because they made your shoes smell nice.
Of course. Who wouldn't want that?
Who doesn't want that?
Got to counteract.
I need that, actually.
That's right. Oh, fantastic. All right. We're going to get back to talking about your business. So give us a little step through. How has Mansfield Woods evolved over time since it was you making stuff for yourself and then the light switch to trying to make things for other people?
Well, what's been really fun for me was to, okay, I'm going to try this. Okay, I got to come up with a name. As it happens, I live on Mansfield Avenue. That's why my business is called Mansfield Woods.
Everyone's going to want to know. So that's the reason.
And I make stuff out of wood. So it seemed like a natural fit. And then I needed a logo. I didn't think I had the talent to make something like that, but I just literally stumbled upon this little design company in Florida.
Cool.
And one thing led to another, and they came up with my little MW logo,
which is branded on all your pieces.
So, what I've enjoyed is just sort of the journey of, coming up with a logo. And then what am I going to do with the logo? Oh, well, I'll get a branding iron made. And that meant I got to work with this little company in California who made it for me. And then, just one thing led to another. And then I just like walking into your shop and saying, what about this? And, probably most of the time I walk in, it's like, no, Martin, that's a miss.
I don't know about that. I'd say you're at least 50-50.
Maybe. But you know what? I don't mind that because I get a lot of enjoyment out of just trying to come up with things. And then I don't know anything about your business really, but I've learned a little bit about what works.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that.
Yeah. Those conversations are fun.
Yeah.
I would say your hit rate is probably close to 50%, which is really high considering, the number of products we have, we're approached with. Yeah. You've come in with the barbecue scrapers. And then I think it was the bath mat, which we carry and also the beer tote, which you've included a freezer pack.
What I like about that one is I came up with that at a time when all the rage in our shop was to make these things called Japanese toolboxes. It's a particular style of box, that's a very small version, that are really fun to make. And the story around them is that when you become a woodworker in Japan, this is like the first thing you're asked to make. So you make this box, there's certain characteristics to it. And actually myself and another guy in the shop, we thought, that'd be really fun to make on a small scale. And then There you go.
So you evolved into actually beer tote.
Yeah, the beer box was born.
Amazing. Yeah. You really Canadianified the Japanese toolbox. You've been working in the Ottawa City Woodshop now for a few years. So tell us about your biggest, quote, business disaster or crisis.
Well, I would say true disasters, the kind of disasters COVID was a disaster. It was so hard on our business as it was on everybody's business. But
it's a communal space. You had to basically shut down.
Yeah, we did. But the kind of crises we have are just little crises. Like a classic one is, we've got a class starting on Thursday night. We're expecting a big delivery of wood by Wednesday, and the wood doesn't show up. Fortunately, we've always got a lot of wood on hand, so we can usually figure it out, but it's a bit of a panic, or, something, because we operate a community wood shop, weird things happen, like we double book our space or something like that. But what's cool for us about our business is that our members and all the people who take our class, I don't know, they just seem super cool. And when we have to shuffle things around, which we don't have to do that often, but when we do, people are so forgiving.
They're understanding. Yeah, they kind of get it. It's part of trying to run this really innovative community model. Yeah,
our shop's busy. So when we have to adjust on the fly, it gets really tricky. Scheduling's really tricky because there's not a lot of free time in our space.
Yeah.
So,
well, good for you to juggle all that. Thank you to you and to the creator, Matt Wallace. And actually, Mike Grigoriev was one of the original founders. So shout out to those guys. And Matt Wallace has his own woodworking business, of course, dating pre-woodshop. Yeah. So Nequal Studios.
Yeah.
He's one of the best, if not the best woodworker that I know of in Ottawa.
He's amazing. He makes just beautiful things. He's so generous with his knowledge. If I or any member or any of our teachers, anybody connected with the shop, if you have a question and you ask Matt, he'll help. And because he's made a lot of things and he's just so generous with his time and his experience.
Give anybody the time of day. I can speak to that as someone who is a neighbor nearby with our wood shop, and we would borrow tools sometimes, and it goes both ways. If you guys ever needed anything, we were there to help too. One more thing, before we kind of take a break again, can you share a couple tips for aspiring makers?
Sure. The thing about being a maker is you have to make. You just have to make and make and make and make mistakes. I mean, that's wood's so beautiful, but wood's tricky. It'll do things that you don't expect, or you'll make mistakes. Oh, I cut that too short. I milled it too thin. That's okay. Figure it out. When we're teaching classes, people are so hard on themselves because they make a mistake and they think they've ruined something, and you've never ruined it. What I like to say is you've just added a design feature. You've just made it your own.
Feature or flaw.
There are so few mistakes in woodworking that can't be recovered from. Obviously, there are some. If you are making a 6-foot table and you cut your wood 5 feet, you've got a problem. But so many things that people who haven't done much woodworking think are disastrous mistakes, they're not. It just means you get to learn a new skill on how you repair that, or how you fill that hole, or, oh, you drilled in the wrong place. Not a problem. We'll fix that. And so we get some people who join the shop and they seem almost paralyzed by their desire for perfection.
Right.
And they just won't make and make and make because they're so afraid of making mistakes and producing something that's imperfect. They don't make. And if you're going to be a maker, you have to make.
That's really interesting observation. Because I think there's a high standard we set in society generally is like failure is not okay.
Yeah.
But in fact, especially in something like woodworking, it's like you actually need to chase mistakes, like work and make so many things that if you're not making mistakes at some point, maybe you're not making enough.
Exactly. And one of the things, like we'll get people, and we have this, we call it Woodshop Basics class, where you're making a really simple little serving board. And somebody will say, well, look at that mistake. And I'll say, or the teacher will say, well, how many of these have you made before? And well, this is my first. Well, Did you expect to be perfect on your very first one? Like who in what other thing have you been perfect the very first time you've tried something?
Right.
And we're not. And so just make the mistake and love the mistake.
Yeah. It's definitely part of the journey.
Embrace it. It's a feature.
100%. We actually have a thing on our website for some products where it's like imperfections are to be expected and appreciated, or variations in obviously like the grain of the wood or the shape of the wood. So that's really sage advice. We're going to take a quick break. Thank you, everybody who is watching or listening here on the Why Bother podcast. We will be right back with Martin Thornell. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Why Bother, the podcast where we explore why creative makers bother doing things the hard way. We're going to do some fun food sampling now, actually drink sampling. Yeah. Something we like to do with our guests. So for those of you who are watching, you're going to get to see what we're doing. For those of you who are listening, we're going to do our best to describe it. Okay. So we are sampling some non-alcoholic beer from our friends at
Neal Brothers.
These are lagers. They're crushable summer flavors. He's got the grapefruit. I've got the lime. I'm just going to hold up my can a little bit here for the camera. I'm going to get that nice ASMR opening on the mic here. Oh, yeah.
I didn't do that.
We'll pour some in our glass for a taste.
I'll try to get that.
Nice. Love it.
But you see what I did? Oh, boy.
Big pour.
Yeah, big pour. But I wanted that ASMR.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I want to listen to that. Let's do a little cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to near beer, as they call these. It's tasty. It's just like a light lager, almost like a Bud Light lime. I'm having over here the lime flavor.
Yep. This got a nice little sour edge to it. Super refreshing. It's great, though. Yeah, really quaffable.
On a summer day, if you're starting early in the day, you don't want to get into the high percentage of alcohol yet. Or maybe you don't drink alcohol. There's so many people who have
I'll
cut
tell you,
alcohol.
what this would be delicious with would be some Neal Brothers chips and
salsa.
The salsa, the one that has the mango in it. That's the one I'm a current fan of.
Amazing. Get the whole Neal Brothers spread.
Yeah.
And we actually carry a couple of other near beers. I got that term from a friend of mine recently, and I love it because non-alcoholic beverage is so long. Yeah. Near beer, perfect. So Sober Carpenter, it's hiding here in your cooled beer caddy, your beer tote. And
entirely appropriate name.
It is perfect for you. So maybe we'll send you home with that one. But this is a Sober Carpenter IPA.
Okay.
And people love these. Thanks for trying those out, Martin.
No problem.
Personally, we'd like to get to know you too. Is there another hobby or passion that you have outside of these 3 jobs that you're carrying?
Well, like I say, I used to really be really enthusiastic about cooking, and I still love cooking, but I don't spend as much time doing it because I'm spending a lot of that time woodworking. I just love that. It's the same thing. It's creative in a way, and I'm fortunate to be married to someone who will eat anything I cook.
Yeah, a taste tester.
As long as no caraway seeds. That's like literally the only thing I can't put in anything I cook, which is pretty easy to avoid.
When you're mentioning caraway seeds, it tells me you are a good cook because you're already deep into the raw ingredients. Next question is about something we like to call
the point of connection.
Right.
So tell me about how connection, like human connection, factors into your business and your life.
Well, the thing that I've discovered through the business is I started teaching stuff in the shop. I didn't know how much I was going to enjoy teaching. And the part that's fun is just our classes are small. So we spend time with people, and there's our classes. We try to make sure there's enough time that nobody feels rushed. So you just have conversations with people. Get that one-on-one time. And you just, what's so amazing is people discover they can make things, and they come in so often. They come in and they're nervous. I've never touched a tool, and we just walk them through it because we've done it before. You know, we kind of know what kind of mistakes people will make, or what kind of mistakes people could make. So we steer them away from those potential problems. And what's so amazing is people walk out and they're like, I do this create this chair class, this simple, relatively simple outdoor chair. It's a backyard chair called the crate chair. And people, like, chairs are hard.
Yeah, they are hard to make.
And people walk out and I have to remind them, you made that chair.
Yeah.
And you can let somebody sit on that and it'll be fine. and people just can't imagine that they could walk in and spend 6 or 7 hours in the shop and they walk out with a chair they made.
And they're beaming with pride.
Yeah, they're pretty proud of them.
Yeah. So you're really not only an expert working with rough lumber and turning it into beautifully finished goods, you're working with rough woodworkers.
Yeah, I guess
people who come in nervous, walking out with confidence, pride in creating something finished.
Yeah. And it's what we discover is that if people take one class, then many of those people take many classes. Once they get just taste. A teeny bit of confidence, I actually did a pretty good job of that, so I can do something else. And they keep coming back. And it's neat for us because then we get to know some of them.
As we wrap up here, we'd love to know what's the big focus for you this year? Any big projects you're working on? And where can people find you?
Well, what I'm trying to do, it's just a personal challenge for me, is so many of the people who take our classes, if they take one, they take many. So I always feel like we have to come up with new stuff.
Right.
I guess it's a bit like your business. You always need to be bringing new things in, keeping it fresh. So
a lot of repeat customers, same thing.
My summer goal is to come up with, 3 or 4 new things that that we can throw into the repertoire in the fall, just so that some of those folks who've done everything we've had to offer to date have something new. And then I think we're going to maybe revive some of our tried and true classes that we haven't done for a while. The one that I know we haven't done for a couple of years now is a skateboard class.
Always popular.
And super popular, really fun. And I have 2 other things. I'm switching to doing a little less time at the office. So I'm going to have more time for woodworking. So one of the things I want to do is start I don't know what I'm even going to call it, like a spoon club, and where we'll just carve spoons, because carving spoons is the greatest thing ever. But I read about this guy in Baltimore who does this, and what he does is he gives people a space to carve spoons, which is what I can do. If you carve 2 spoons, you have to donate 1 spoon. Okay. And what happens is the second spoon gets sold and all the money goes to something like the food bank or something. So it's kind of a way for people to make a bit for themselves, but a bit for others. And I want to do it as sort of almost like on a drop-in basis, like just very casual. So that's one thing. I don't know. We just want to keep innovating in the shop, and bringing in new tools so people can be more adventurous.
Love it. So you're working on new workshops, possibly a spoon club.
Yep.
And just keeping the shop progressing. Yeah. More new tools.
Sorry, one other thing I forgot. Yeah. I lost my train of thought. Was we get so many emails from people who want to get their kids into a woodworking class.
Of course.
And we'd love to do it. We've fiddled around with it a couple of times. We've tried it, but we haven't quite nailed it yet. And really, it's a shame, because the challenge we have is we have to make sure we can do things safely.
Of course.
And that, we've got our insurance all in order. But that's something we're going to keep trying to figure out a way to do. And maybe it'll just be carving to start, because it's hand tools. I mean, could you hurt yourself? Yeah, but the worst would be a little cut.
It's a lower risk.
It's not like using a table saw.
Yeah.
So that's another thing so I'd like to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good long-term goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. And of course, you can find Mansfield Woods products at Maker House.
That's right.
The barbecue scraper, the beer tote, the bath mat, as we've mentioned. We also have an Ottawa City Woodshop product, the timber marks of Eastern Ontario print that is quite popular. People are buying to see the history. And then, of course, the last timber mark on the poster is the Ottawa City Woodshop timber mark.
That's right.
Bringing it back and celebrating that heritage. So Martin, just thank you so much for joining us, taking the time to come on the podcast. You're such an interesting person. with your professional background and then your woodworking kind of second career, hobby turned career. Thanks for teaching us a little bit about wood today.
Well, thanks for having me. And again, just thanks for supporting me. Thanks for supporting the Ottawa City Woodshop. It's beautiful that we have these sort of relationships in Ottawa.
This is why we bother.
Makes it a special place.
It's great to connect.
Thanks.
All right. And thank you folks for listening and watching if you're following us on YouTube. And we hope you'll tune in next time. We'll see you then.